How dangerous would the Kakin princes be to the world? Even among these war cycles, they show that they can evolve a lot. Now imagine if there were no political struggle between them, the danger they would be to the hunter world and to the association itself, the power to go to the Dark Continent and bring chaos to the world, and even more, whoever actually wins and dominates the 3 treasures that will be given to whoever remains at the end. What is the real danger of all this? And to what alarming level will the power of these princes along with their beasts reach? Want to know more? Stay until the end of the video, subscribe to the channel, leave your like, and activate the notification bell. The world of Hunter x Hunter has always shown us how vast, unpredictable, and dark it can be. But there has never been an arc as dense, political, and silently threatening as the one involving the princes of the Kakin Empire and their nun beasts. At first glance, it's easy to think that the conflict is just a dispute for the throne, something even common in stories of royal intrigue. But what's at stake here is much more than political power. It's the real possibility that one of the most dangerous individuals ever presented by Togashi will take control of an empire, a mystical relic, and a direct route to the heart of the most lethal continent in the known world. If this is not treated as a global threat by the Hunter Association, there may be no time to react when the shadow begins to spread. The princes of Kakin were introduced almost ceremonially, each with their own set of values, motivations, and manipulation styles. They are members of an aristocracy accustomed to blood, power, and absolute control. What makes it all even more insane is that, due to the succession ceremony, an ancient and deadly ritual, each of them carries a completely unique nin spiritual beast, created from their aura and unconscious, like a monstrous and uncontrollable reflection of who they really are. And that's where things begin to escalate into something far beyond a simple Game of Thrones. The nun beasts function as guardians, but also as weapons, traps, and in some cases emotional extensions of the prince themselves. They evolve as the user evolves. They are autonomous, intelligent, lethal, and in many cases more terrifying than any creature previously faced in the series, even comparable, in symbolic terms, to some chimera ants. The most alarming point in all of this is that these princes are not just political figures. Many of them have latent talents for Nern and are in full transformation. Even without formal training, conflict and fear force them to develop at an absurd pace. Imagine what that means in a scenario where one of them survives, inherits the promised treasures, which include relics from the Dark Continent itself, and over time learns to completely master Nun, along with their beast that is already dangerous on its own. Benjamin, the first prince, is pure power and military control. His nun beast protects him with a passive ability, and he has a technique that absorbs the abilities of his subordinates who die, keeping them active through a strict loyalty system. He is a natural commander, with clear convictions and a thirst for absolute power, being one of the few with the ability to seize the throne by force. Camilla, the second, is vengeful, manipulative, and carries a deadly counterattack ability. If killed, her nun beast resurrects her and automatically kills her assassin, a loop of sacrifice and divine punishment that makes her terrifying in direct confrontations. Zhonglei, the third prince, focuses on the accumulation of wealth and, surprisingly, his ability is based on that. His nun beast transforms special coins accumulated over time into unknown effects, but potentially vast and cumulative. It would be a power more geared toward the long term, but with still unpredictable consequences. Tebepa, the fifth, is a scientist with a more technical and experimental focus. She sees Nun as a field to be explored as pure science, and her beast acts defensively, but still mysteriously. Taiserich, the fourth, lives in the shadows, involved in illegal networks and the underworld of information. His ability still seems to be evolving, but the predatory instinct he exudes already makes him a threat even without fully revealing his power. The other princes, like Lujerus, Momos, Hockenberg, Salesal, and Mariam, vary in levels of influence and ability. Some are more fragile or inexperienced, but that does not make them irrelevant. Hockenberg, for example, has a power linked to spiritual leadership, capable of uniting minds and auras collectively, almost like channeled faith, which makes him one of the most unpredictable. Mariam, still a child, has the most protective and invisible beast of all, and is protected by Kurapika, which places him at the eye of the political storm. The others, although less prominent, still have room for growth or drastic twists. After all, with Togashi, the improbable always has weight. The central point is that everyone, even the least active ones, are in constant evolution. The silent war taking place inside the ship is a cruel forge that is shaping these figures into increasingly dangerous beings. And when that tension truly explodes, the world may come to know the true terror of heirs prepared not only to inherit a throne, but the right to destroy or reshape the world with their own hands. Now, think about the possibility that this internal war had never happened. That these individuals did not cannibalize each other in a fight for power. If each of them had grown freely, with unrestricted access to education, the Empire's resources, research, and in training from an early age, what would we have today? Probably not a ruling elite, but a pantheon of gifted human beings, with divine beasts at their disposal, shaped to rule with an iron fist or to subjugate the world in their own image. And that's without considering what would happen if one of them, with enough intelligence and ambition, decided to return to the world with the knowledge acquired in the Dark Continent. Because yes, that's what's at stake. The expedition to the most hostile and mysterious continent in human history, and the secrets that will be revealed only to those who make it there alive. The real danger is not just in who wins, but in what will be done with that power. The succession ritual promises the last survivor access to 3 secret treasures of the Empire. The 3 sacred relics of the Kakin Empire carry deep symbolism and an eerily powerful practical function within the context of the succession ritual. They're not just ancient treasures of ceremonial value, but artifacts that actively operate within the cruel mechanism of the prince's dispute. The seed urn is the center of it all, the item that gives birth to the nun spirit beasts. It was conceived by the Empire's first king, and when used in the ritual, it plants a symbolic egg in the soul of each prince, a nun contract with no return, which creates living and fierce entities, shaped by individual desires, traumas, and auras. These beasts act independently, protecting, attacking, or influencing the fate of their owners. The second treasure, known as the Lotus Hermit, acts as a presence that reinforces the rules of the ritual. It oversees the consequences of each action within the actual succession game, as if it were a living consciousness that punishes deviations or temptations to cheat the system. It's as if the Empire itself gave birth to an entity that ensures the game is deadly, but fair in its own way, placing all princes under the same shadow of inevitable danger. And finally, the Sword of Good Omens, or Sword of Ascension, has a role still wrapped in mystery and destiny. It represents the conclusion, the right to the throne, and the final blessing of the one who survives the political and spiritual hell that is the succession. It is tied to the end of the journey, the ultimate prize that is not just symbolic, but potentially bearer of real power, either to rule Kakin or to open the doors of the Dark Continent with something more than mere ambition. These 3 treasures form the backbone of the conflict. They not only turn the princes into real threats, but shape the world around them with their hidden and dangerous rules. And the fact that someone like Krallo, one of the world's greatest criminals, is eyeing them, shows that the power of these relics goes beyond the Empire's borders and threatens much more than just those involved in the succession. These are artifacts that could redirect the entire course of history if they fall into the wrong hands, or even the right hands, but for the wrong reasons. And here comes the question that haunts all of this. Who will truly be the last prince standing? Togashi is a master at deconstructing heroes and villains, and in this arc, no one is pure. No one is truly heroic. There are the more charismatic ones, like Seridnich, who is also, ironically, one of the most insane and dangerous. A collector of morbid art, a refined psychopath, with a talent for none that borders on the divine. Seridnich not only awakens Zetsu almost instantly, but develops a form of real-time temporal premonition, becoming nearly impossible to defeat in combat. If this man inherits the treasures and leaves the continent as the king of Kakin, the world as we know it may collapse, not by brute force, but by the rise of a sadistic, visionary, and now mystical intelligence. Kurapika, who tries to contain this madness from within the expedition, knows this better than anyone. He himself has already lost almost everything in the name of his mission, and is surrounded by forces beyond his understanding. The prince's nun beasts are so complex and unpredictable that not even he, one of the most meticulous and obsessive specialists in the series, can come up with completely safe plans. And the worst part, they evolve. They learn. They react to death, to fear, to will. They are, at their core, living manifestations of chaotic potential. Each day that passes, the princes grow stronger. Those who survive become more dangerous. And the closer they get to their final destination, the more the masks fall. Politics turns to war. Diplomacy turns to magic. The game turns to apocalypse. The Hunter Association, as an organization, should be on full alert. But even it is divided, manipulated, weakened. The leaders have their own agendas, and many of the hunters present on the expedition have already chosen sides. If chaos breaks out at the wrong moment, there may be no way to contain the threat. And if, even worse, the winner of the succession gains some dark blessing in the Dark Continent, something beyond none, something truly alien, then the known world will be facing a new era. An era shaped by one name, one throne, and one hidden beast. And in this scenario, the Kakin princes are not just royal offspring. They are candidates to become gods. Or demons. It all depends on who is the last to cross that thin line between power and ruin. And as Togashi has always shown, history rarely spares the innocent when the abyss begins to open.